Hello and welcome to the Insights Podcast. I'm your host, Joe Pane. Since 2006, I've been working in the realm of emotional fitness. Emotional fitness is about transforming our relationship with uncertainty so we're better prepared to handle the inevitable challenges and pressures and stresses that life brings. We get to explore in this podcast series what impacts our relationships, what inspires our actions, and what influences all of our decision making. We also gain clarity on what matters most, what matters least, and what brings us joy in this life. Join me on this journey from ambition to meaning as we explore deeply every nook and every cranny of emotional fitness. Thank you for being here, and I look forward to embarking on this adventure with you. Hey everyone, it's Joe Pane here, and welcome to this very special episode of Insights because we're up to episode 100. Can't believe we got there. So thank you so much, by the way, to the thousands of you over the last many, many years who have been following me from the very beginning, even before the first episode was ever recorded. So I really appreciate your support. It's deeply, profoundly appreciated. So thank you. It's also a special time, of course, because as we head into Christmas time, at the time of this recording, we're fast tracking toward the end of 2024. So if you're listening to this around the Christmas time, Merry Christmas to you and Happy Holidays, as they say. And I wish, of course, all the very, very best from the depths of my soul for you to have a phenomenal year in 2025. I know that the theme that we're running with here at home is that 2025 for us is next level. That's what that's the theme, and there's lots of reasons for that, which I won't bore you with here. But let me share with you today. We're going to be focusing on a key insight here that actually comes out of one of the characters from the Matrix movie. I can't remember which character it was. It wasn't Neo. This is advice that Neo was given at some stage during the second Matrix movie. And the character says to Neo, you can't see beyond a choice that you haven't made. I'll say that again. And just have a think about this. You can't see beyond a choice that you have not made. Now, the reason why I want to talk about this particular insight right now at this particular time of the year is because, as we know, a lot of people, well-intentioned people, set intentions for the new year, what do they call them? New Year's resolutions for the new year. And we know, and this is not a New Year's resolution-based podcast. Let me tell you that. I'm not here to say to you, I'm not here to inspire you to create new resolutions for the new year, but I'm here to share with you an insight for those of you who are setting goals, who are wanting to shift something, transform something, change something, improve something, next level something, step up in some area of your life, whatever that might be, whatever it is you need to let go of and whatever it is you need to start embracing for 2025, whatever it is, it comes down to our choice points. It comes down to, because our choice is like another word for choice is commitment, decision, action taking. It's all these things. And we can't see beyond a choice that we have not made, because if we haven't made the choice or not committed to that particular vision, goal, mission, purpose, whatever it might be, is we can't experience the lay of the land that exists on the other side of that choice. So in other words, so many people overcomplicate the way that they make decisions in their lives. So many people overcomplicate or overthink what could possibly happen, all the go-wrongs and all the go-rights. Now, there's nothing wrong with, exploring worst-case scenario. I think that's actually a pretty good idea. There's nothing wrong with exploring best-case scenarios either. I think that's a great idea too. In fact, do both. I think it's fantastic. However, unless we make the choice, we're never going to know where we sit in this spectrum of best-case scenario and worst-case scenario. It was only just the other day, literally the other day from when I was the recording of this episode, Silvana, my wife, Silvana and I were talking about how did we end up in the situation that we're in here, which is, for those of you who have been following me for a long time, you know that 3 years ago we moved from Melbourne, where we'd been living all of our lives, and we changed our lifestyle completely, and we're on acreage in the Noosa hinterland, and we've been here for the last 3 years. And a lot had to happen for that to happen. We put our house on the market in Melbourne. It was taking time to sell. We had to find somewhere to live here. We had to rent something. We had faith in the area that we were renting in, that was the area that we wanted to live in. We wanted to try out the hinterland, the Noosa hinterland acreage lifestyle. We went searching for a house. We found a house that we loved. The house was a schmozzle. It needed renovation. We need to find a builder. We had no reference points in this new land. We had no relationships in this new land. In fact, the one relationship that we did have with an old client of mine, a good friend of mine, they moved away from the Noosa hinterland to somewhere way up north. So we had no one here that we knew. We literally knew no one. We were burning the ships because we were selling the house. And it's incredible how when you make that choice, how it's incredibly unveiling. Things unveil to us. Dormant forces come alive. Inspiration goes next level. Opportunities begin to abound. But until we make that choice, until we make that commitment, until we make that decision and actually take the action, nothing changes in the universe, nothing changes in our psychological landscape, and nothing changes in our physical landscape. And so something that Silvana and I were talking about the other night was it's based on faith. The decision was based on faith. It was based on our emotional compass, which was that we felt it in our hearts and in our soul that this was a decision that we wanted to commit to. This was something we're going to give a red hot go to. You know, the ego voices within were saying, but hold on, you're burning the ships. You're selling the house in Melbourne. I mean, that means you're fully in. You could have rented the house out and been more conservative. But Silvana and I have been together for 3 decades. You know, we've been married for 28, together for 31. And, you know, when we make decisions around something, we either fully commit or we don't. You know, you can't be sort of pregnant. You either are or you're not. You know, you're either committed or you're not. You can't be sort of committed. So what we found was that, and it's the same with my business. I've been in my own coaching and training business now for the last 19 years. And, you know, it's the same thing there. It's like, continue making decisions, continue to fail forward, continue to take action, continue to say yes and work out how, continue to commit to the next version of you. Another way of explaining this, and just before I forget, because I want to explain what this statement means from a Jungian perspective. I'm a massive fan of Carl Jung, who was at his peak of his powers with all of his incredible work, you know, approximately 100 years ago, back in the 1920s. I won't go into all the detail of Carl Jung's history, but Carl Jung, just briefly, was the founder and creator of psychoanalytic psychology, the creator of transpersonal psychology. The man had several near-death experiences and came back with a conscious memory of what he experienced on the other side. He has contributed massively to the human condition. He's contributed massively to the human behavior, where he discovered universal patterns of thinking. So, for example, he discovered extroversion versus introversion, thinker versus feeler, sensor versus intuitor, big picture versus detail. All of these, what we call these days, you know, universal behavioral patterns or meta programs, he discovered these back then and has contributed massively to our understanding of the human psyche. And he's one of my behavioral or psychological heroes in this space. But before we delve into how Carl Jung would see this statement that you can't see beyond a choice that you haven't made yet, I just want to share with you, if for those of you who are listening to this right now, no matter which platform that you're on, if you could please remember to subscribe, because by subscribing, then you will receive notification of when the next podcast comes out. And this way we can start building, you know, an audience of people who are of similar mind or like mind. And then this just makes the podcast have more impact, if that makes sense. So if you can please remember to subscribe no matter which platform that you're on. And that way you'll automatically receive notifications from when these episodes come out, these short, sweet episodes. All right, let's go back to Carl Jung. So Carl Jung, so what I'm going to share now is using Jungian teaching, how to explain that we can't see beyond a choice that we haven't made. So Jung, back in the day, described 2 worlds that we can live in. Can't live in both. It's one or the other. And the 2 worlds he described was the conventional world and the special world. The conventional world is the world of mass. It's the world of mass media. It's the world of mainstream. It's the world where you do what everyone else is doing. It's the world that has, or a world, which has a very clear pathway. This is a world that is racked and riddled in certainty, comfort, safety, security, predictability, familiarity. Now, there's nothing wrong with any of those things. In fact, I'm attracted to comfort and security and safety probably just as much as you are, maybe even more. There's nothing wrong with that. But if we're in a world that is all that it has, we can't become what Jung spoke about, which was become completely individuated. Now, individuated is a Jungian term. It doesn't mean to become an individual. It kind of does, but individuation is where we become the person that we have always meant to be. It's realizing our potential to its absolute maximum and even beyond, which I know doesn't make sense, but that's perhaps another podcast. So the conventional world, which is comforting, directional, clear, you're doing what everyone else is doing, there's no growth in that world. You remain stagnant spiritually, energetically, emotionally, psychologically, on every level. There is no growth in that world because growth needs uncertainty. It needs resistance. It needs challenge. It needs problem. It needs adventure. It needs variety. It needs all of these things for us to grow. So he says what happens is for some of us, we become so disenchanted with the conventional world that we choose the special world. Now, the special world has no pathway. In fact, there is no path. There might be a couple of steps to get into it, but the pathway disappears into a pathless forest. And there is no one there to direct you in terms of which direction to take. And there are many forks in the road, in the pathway. No one can tell you. There's no one standing there to tell you, go this way, go that way. It's a choice point. And sure, in the special world, we get to meet people who are going to come along and help us and teach us and guide us and mentor us and coach us and train us and all that kind of thing. But at the end of the day, you and I need to take that step and continue taking those steps. Now, the conventional world, we're not really forced to make that many choices or decisions because we're just following what everyone else is doing. We're not consciously living. In the special world, we're waking up. We're waking up to the fact that we can create our own experience of lifestyle, that we can create our own ways of creating an income in a meaningful way, where we are creating the path in the special world as we're moving. So there's continual choice points. There's continual commitment to action, decision-making, and choices. And on the other side of those choices, we find and meet the next version of ourselves that we need to become in order to handle the next level of what life is bringing. A question I often ask in my workshops when I'm talking about this kind of subject matter is I often will ask, can the 2010 version of you handle the 2024 lifestyle that you have at the moment? So I know for a fact, absolutely 100% within myself and within my wife, because we've had this conversation, the 2010 version of us could not possibly handle the responsibilities and the commitments that we have in 2024. We just hadn't become that person yet. This is why, I don't mean to be controversial because I'm not that kind of person, but this is why, having visions or goals that are 5, 6, 10 years down the track. Now, if you make goals that are 5, 6, 10 years down the track, rock on, fantastic. If it's working for you, rock on, fantastic, go for it. It's never worked for me because I'm trying to see the future through the filter of the eyes of 2024. And I can't see the version of me in 2030 or 2034. Imagine trying to set goals for 2025 through the filters and the lens of you in 2010 or you in 2000. There is no way you could possibly see what is it you're experiencing in 2024 through the lens of 2010 or 2005 or whatever year you want to nominate. So we're limited with what we can see in the future by the capacity of our lens in 2024. But the way that we start to unveil the pathway to that future in the special world is by committing to those choices, committing to those decisions. There's a massive difference. I'm just referring to a couple of little notes I just jotted down here, right? There's a massive difference between, wishing and reality, between wishing and commitment. There's a massive massive disparity rather. I know that you know what I mean. And it does take courage to commit to something where you don't know what's on the other side. Committing to a new relationship that you don't know how it's going to work out, if it's going to work out. Committing to the move that we made, which was a huge financial move as much as it was a huge emotional, spiritual, and psychological move for us, changing lifestyle in every manner. Moving into a new town where we knew no one. And now here we sit 3 years later in a rich community, like so many wonderful people that we've met of like mind, of similar values. Our lifestyle is completely flipped, 180 based on what it was before. We've moved from a a 400 square meter block of land with a house on it sitting just a few kilometers outside of a very busy city. Melbourne's huge with millions of people, and it's got a lot of movement and energy. Moving from that to a 2.5 acre, in a hinterland forest where we can't see or hear anyone, in our own private resort, if you like, it's just a massive, massive change. And not to mention, the nature of my business has evolved and changed a lot over the years because of the decisions and choice points that we've made. So if you want to meet the next version of you or embrace what you need to become to handle the next level of life coming, is you need to make those choices. Because the only way you can see what's on the other side of that choice is to commit to that choice. And then you get to meet the next version of you. You get to unveil aspects of what's in you that you didn't know that you had. I remember Wayne Dyer. I can't remember, was it Patanjali? I think he was quoting Patanjali. I've got that wrong. 100% that's wrong. Patanjali, I'm sure that's the wrong name, is a famous philosopher, obviously not so famous in my mind, who Wayne Dyer in all those years ago was often quoting. And one of the things he quoted there was that when we, and I'm ad-libbing here, that when we commit to the unknown, when we commit to the next version of ourselves, and this is so crucial, so really, really listen to this very carefully, is that when we commit to the unknown, the new, the unfamiliar, is dormant forces come alive. We discover aspects of ourselves. We discover skill sets that we didn't know that we had, or knowledge that we didn't know that we had. I know this sounds however it sounds, but please go with me on this, because this has been my experience, is you start to embrace this newness, this new expansion of responsibility, expansion of living by seeing what's on the other side of that choice you've committed to. It's incredible what you begin to notice, what you can be capable of. I remember in that dystopian show, Handmaid's Tale, the main character there, whose name escapes me, but the main character, I remember she said in one of the episodes, you would be amazed at what you are capable of when you have to be. And when we place ourselves in positions where we have to be, it is incredible what you and I are capable of. So dormant forces come alive, and those dormant forces only come alive when they're on the other side, when you and I are on the other side of that choice point, on the other side of that decision. The word decide means to cut off from the past. It's to cut off from the past, to let go and embrace what's coming. And this is what I wanted to share with you today, because with 2025 impending and with our theme being next level, privately we know what that means on many, many levels. No pun intended. Do you have to have a theme? Well, I would recommend it. Do you have to have a theme? Well, no, you don't have to do anything. But if you want to change something, we all need to make our own version of our commitment to those choices, those decisions, those actions, those commitments. Because commitment is the hallmark of a psychological adult. It truly is. And this is something that is a deep passion of mine, because it's the commitment to, you know what it is? Another way of looking at this is like, it's embracing a very healthy, divine curiosity as to what's on the other side of that decision, of what's on the other side of that commitment, or what's on the other side of that choice. Because until we choose, until we decide, until we take action, until we commit, we're not going to meet or join or reconnect or connect with the next version of us that we need to become in order to handle the next year that's coming. I hope that's making sense. I would love to hear from you. If you're whatever platform that you're on, and please, share some comments. That will be phenomenal. So just a quick reminder, if whatever platform you're listening to this to, if you can subscribe to the podcast, because then you'll receive notifications of what's coming. Also, I strongly recommend that you stay in touch, because every time there's a notification of a new podcast episode, I encourage you to have a look at the website, joepane.com.au, because on there's a whole bunch of wonderful free resources that you can access. And also keep an eye out for free trainings coming up and the latest accreditation trainings that are coming up in 2025. It's a great way just to stay on top of it. So you can see what it is that, potentially where we can work together. Of course, there's many of you where we have worked together before. Our journey continues, of course. I'm looking forward to that very, very much. But go ahead and subscribe to whatever platform that you're on. That way you'll receive those notifications so you can get access early to those free trainings and accreditation trainings coming up. And as I said, more importantly, or equally as importantly, depending on how you look at it, there are wonderful free resources available on the website. And there's lots of great content on there with heaps of blog articles. All right. Well, thank you so much for tuning in. I certainly hope that by committing to any choices that you need to commit to for 2025, you get to experience what's on the other side. Because if you don't make that choice, you can't experience, you can't see what's on the other side of a choice that you haven't made yet. So I trust and hope that that's been valuable to you. Once again, in my little internal reflection and celebration of episode 100, for those of you who have been with me for so long, thank you so much for joining me all those years ago. For those of you that are new, I know there's many of you that are new to this podcast. I really appreciate you being on here. And if you've made it this far in terms of this episode, I deeply appreciate your time and commitment and energy. Looking forward to connecting with you at some point in 2025 as well. And once again, thanks so much for tuning in. And remember to visit joepane.com.au for great resources. Look out for the free trainings coming up and opportunities for accreditation trainings as well. Thank you for being here. My best wishes for your next year coming. And may it be a phenomenal year. May it be a year like no other in a good way. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye for now. I trust you enjoyed this latest episode of the Insights Podcast and received great value. Please remember to subscribe and share your reviews, and I'll see you again very soon.